Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the Northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us, and we are continuing ITV's tributes to Paul O'Grady. So on the programme this evening.
Well, I bought this in Singapore in a fit of madness. I thought, when am I going to wear that? And to me it looks like I've been painting the ceiling.
From Lily Savage to the love of dogs, tributes tonight for Paul O'Grady, the one-off genius from Birkenhead who'll be missed so much.
The public loved him, and if the public love you, you can go and do anything.
Listen, if you're a couch potato, get a greyhound because they're perfect for you.
Don't miss our lovely last interview when Paul was telling us all about his plans for the future.
And we'll have your memories of Paul O'Grady, who's died at the age of 67.
Also on the programme tonight.
Angels, angels.
Her name was Jasmine. How Kathy and Rob are on a mission to help other parents like them cope with the death of a child. Rolling back the years, we're moving in with the football team, help rescue rugby league in Oldham.
And the blossom's out across the northwest, but will the weather be kind to it over the next few days? I'll have a forecast later on.
Well, first tonight, the huge outpouring of love and sadness at the death of Paul O'Grady at the age of 67.
He was the social worker from Birkenhead who shot to fame as the outspoken and sometimes outrageous drag star Lily Savage, and the man whose love of dogs could melt the coldest heart.
Well, Paul spoke to our entertainment correspondent, Caroline Whitmore, many times over the years. She now looks back at the life of a man who spent his life campaigning and entertaining.
Dear Paul, can I come and stay with you? No.
Paul, the performer. Paul, the pioneer. National treasure and modest hero.
I get nervous getting out of bed.
Forget when you're doing a show 5 nights a week and it becomes a job, and then you'll meet somebody in the street and they'll say something like, oh, I had terrible depression or whatever, and they've just watched the show and it's cheered them up.
Love you, Paul O'Grady.
Today is a really dark day for me. I love Paul very much. He was a dear mate. He was an absolute scream, as we all knew. A social warrior, really. He never forgot his working class roots.
Because I always worked the clubs in Manchester.
Oh, I love Ireland and all of Irishmen. Ooh, I have to have a whiff of Guinness and that voice on the back of my neck and all the Angora on my sweater goes stiff.
I look at these costumes and I see one thing, pain. Pain.
Must have had it rough doing the clubs in the early days as a drag act, but as I say, he came through, the public loved him, and if the public love you, you can go and do anything.
For an entertainer to be able to do what Paul has done, you know, they were a trailblazer. They set a tone for the rest of the world.
I just put my bag down. There's nobody in from Birkenhead, is there?
I moved to Birkenhead when I was a child from Liverpool. To see someone from the same area as me opened so many doors.
Times have changed, but also you think 4 hours away on a plane in Chechnya, you know, gay men and women are being tortured and murdered, so we need to keep the profile up.
Paul O'Grady will be remembered, I think, forever.
Paul was the first one up there with Lily Savage. He's just absolutely brilliant. He was fearless and ferocious. But I'll tell you what, the bravest thing he did was he wasn't frightened to hang the wig up and then become Paul.
Paul O'Grady, back in Birkenhead where you belong. That was quite a reception.
Seeing all like the landmarks I remember, like Birkenhead Technical College and the Plaza Cinema and all that all gone. I'm going, oh no, it's like watching old friends die, you know what I mean? They've all been ripped down, it's such a shame. And the Isolde's gone, another picture house. So is there any picture houses left in Birkenhead? I miss the people. It's just the banter you have with people.
It's such a shock this morning when I heard it on the news. What such a lovely man. He actually grew up in my road, Sydney Road, in Tranmere, Wirral.
Lovely, lovely man. Whatever he done good for the community.
A representative of Birkenhead, the Wirral, and yeah, he done us proud.
Statue to him in Hampton Square or by the ferry somewhere. That's part of it, yeah, I think so, yeah.
It's sad and he'll be remembered.
Everyone at the Empire was incredibly saddened to hear the sad news about Paul. We were eagerly anticipating him coming home to perform as Miss Hannigan in Annie in June. And I'm sure our audiences are just as devastated as us about that. He came here to support Scylla the musical. Him and Scylla were really good friends, and he was, you know, he was a part of our theatre community here.
Little dogs everywhere I turn, I can see them.
The last conversation we had was last Thursday. When I went to call him back, he went, "Hey kid, I can't, I'm in the field with a pig." He was very into his animals and his farm and his dogs, and I thought about his dogs this morning.
What do? You give me kisses? Okay, I love you too.
Every time I see you, it's when you've won an NTA for the love of dogs.
For the love of dogs.
Paul O'Grady for the love of dogs! Well done, and a lovely suit as well.
I bought this in Singapore in a fit of madness. To me, it looks like I've been painting the ceiling, and it's like...
He's the great loss, and there's not another Paul O'Grady out there.
It's just a tragedy. Just an absolute tragedy. Not only us, not only his friends and his family, but for the world.
All right, no tongues, you know the rules.
Yeah, we're all just so saddened by this news tonight. And joining us now is a great friend of Paul O'Grady, the radio broadcaster, Pete Price. Pete, thanks for joining us. A really sad day for you.
It is, but that video has really upset me. When he was at Waterstones in Birkenhead, he made me go to the back of the queue. He wouldn't let me jump the queue.
Quite right.
I went, Paul, back of queue.
What do you think about this outpouring
It's
today?
What I expected, but it shouldn't have happened yet. I've just had a message coming on air today, which is really so many people have got in touch. But Doc Cotton, June Brown, her daughter, has sent me a message saying he's up there having a fag with me mum, and I thought that just summed up everything. We've lost so many lovely people. He was a force to be reckoned with. Lily Savage became this icon, and Lily was his family and people he met on when he was working in the social and working for social housing and everything else he did. And it was amazing what happened there. And he knew when to hang the dress up. He knew when to hang the dress up.
And this is to you, this picture.
Yes. You see what it says?
I've just read it now.
One slapper to another slapper. Sorry.
Wicked sense of humour.
Let's talk about Lily Savage. A great character, sometimes outrageous, but never offensive.
Sometimes offensive, but never publicly. No, Lily was everything. Everybody you've ever met. When the dress went on, Lily became a monster sometimes and fabulous. I always remember when they came to the Empire, and this isn't the story I wasn't going to tell you before.
No, perhaps not.
When I went to the Empire, Sonia was playing his daughter, and Paul didn't like surprises. He didn't like surprises, so he wanted to know what was going on. And Murphy, his lovely friend, his ex-boyfriend who died years ago, knew about it. So Sonia goes on and says, "I found my dad." "What do you mean you found your dad? Your dad doesn't exist, your dad." And you could see his face. And Sonia went, "My dad's here and he wants to say hello." I walked on the stage, his face was a picture. He picked me up and threw me off the stage and went, "You think I'd sleep with him?" And threw me off. "That's not your dad." And that was him. It was just wild.
The two of you went back a long way. He was a naturally funny guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, the first time I ever met him was ridiculous. In a clothes shop in Birkenhead called the Gearbox, and he was buying a Ben Sherman shirt. He was a kid. He wasn't. It was weird. I was there buying. He was buying a shirt. Last time I interviewed him was amazing. I said, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm all right. I'm all right." I'm like, "Meh." I went, "No, how are you?" He went, "Meh, I'm fine." I went, "What's going on?" He went, "I've got a baby lamb. Mother doesn't want it. It's in bed with me." And he's feeding a baby lamb while he's being interviewed.
He had this wonderful warmth, didn't he, which really came over in his love of dogs and all animals.
His love of animals was amazing, and he has done more single-handedly in this country, and you're a dog lover, as we know. He's done more for animals in this country. I think he's told me a few times he prefers animals to human beings. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to all his beautiful animals. He once said to me, "I'm not doing panto anymore. I'm sick of panto." So I rang him up at Christmas, said, "How are you?" He said, "How am I? I'm in 7 foot of snow digging me sheep out. Get me back to panto." That was him. He made an issue of everything, but was so loved and never failed at anything. And by the way, changed television as we know it at tea time. I mean, he was getting millions of viewers for that amazing show, and everyone said, "That won't work." He knew damn well it was going to work.
And he was always right.
He was amazing.
Thank you so much. He will be so missed.
So missed,
Thank
and
you.
I love him dearly. And he'll be up there with Cilla, Barbara and Doc Cotton.
And they'll be having a great
How
time.
about that for a party?
The best time.
Pete, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of you who've been sharing your memories of Paul O'Grady with us.
Joe Mackenzie in Blackpool has a lovely story. He says, Paul once stayed in the hotel I worked in. I had to show him to his room when he checked in. I got in the lift carrying his bag. He opened up the bag and Buster, his little dog, was in it. He was so funny, warm and kind to us during his stay.
Jen Marsden says he was one of the wittiest people on TV with a heart as big as the Wirral itself. Rest in peace, Paul, a true legend.
John Curry tells us, I had the pleasure of meeting Paul several times, taking him to and from work when he did his Lily Savage summer season on North Pier in Blackpool. A lovely and very funny man with razor-sharp wit, yet always humble and generous with others.
And I love this one from Di Price. She says, I met Paul at his first gig in the Frog in Buckets when he brought the house down. I was at the bar when this bloke said in a Scouse accent, get us a drink, love. I said to my mates, hey, that's the bloke, that sounds like the bloke, excuse me. Hey, that sounds like that Lily character. And Paul said, took you flipping long enough, love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks as ever for getting in touch. And we will be playing you Paul's last interview with Granada Reports at the end of the programme, so stay with us for that. Now, though, we're going to move on to the rest of the day's news. And the jury in the case of Thomas Cashman, who's accused of killing 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell, has retired for the night now after being sent out to consider its verdict. Thomas Cashman, who's 34, faces charges of murdering Olivia by shooting her at her home in Liverpool last summer. He's also charged with wounding Olivia's mother, the attempted murder of another man, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. He denies all charges.
Residents in a village in Cheshire are to be given the chance to opt out of a scheme to heat their homes with hydrogen. There were complaints that British Gas was trying to force people living in Whitby near Ellesmere Port to take part in the plan. But the 2,000 residents in Whitby have now received a letter offering them the chance to go with hydrogen or stick with their existing supplier.
A charity based in Manchester has helped to open a whole new town for 3,000 Syrian people made homeless by the earthquakes and the country's civil war. Hundreds of families had lived in tents and makeshift accommodation until Action for Humanity stepped in to help. Massa village is named after a 10-year-old girl who died in the earthquake.
Manchester Cathedral is hosting an open iftar this evening. Iftar is a meal eaten after sunset to break a fast during the Muslim festival of Ramadan. People of all faiths, races and beliefs are coming together with nearly 1,000 people expected to attend. Organisers say their hope is will help communities better understand each other.
Well, next tonight, the latest report in our series about coping with bereavement. The parents of a 6-year-old girl say the stigma and taboo of losing a child meant some people wouldn't say their daughter's name or even talk to them at all.
It is 9 years since Rob and Kathy Lapsley from Liverpool lost their daughter Jasmine. They've since set up a charity to provide somewhere for bereaved families to support each other.
They've been speaking to us for our special series all this week on how to better deal with bereavement. Our correspondent Rob Smith reports.
Ready?
Go on.
Angels, angels, brighten up the sky.
Happy to sing, to dance, to help. Jasmine Lapsley was a kind kid, always ensuring others were okay. But when the 6-year-old died after choking on food, not everyone ensured her parents were okay.
It was quite profound, the lack of understanding from other people and the taboo of child loss.
To break the taboo, Kathy and Rob started a support charity in their daughter's name. It helps grieving parents in Liverpool and beyond. Parents who notice some people just won't say their child's name, who notice others crossing the road to avoid saying anything to them.
That sort of lack of knowledge and understanding about how you speak to someone that's bereaved, that fear of getting it wrong, the not knowing what to say, so people don't say anything. And that's worse because then, you know, you're isolated. It was daily, you know, when you're dealing with people, it was...
Daily,
Daily, yeah. It's daily. It's in all your interactions, you know, when you go to the shop, when you meet with a friend, when you're in work.
It's easier for them to pretend it didn't happen. They're uncomfortable with the subject. They don't want to talk to you about it. Sometimes it might be that they don't want to upset you, but they're not going to remind you that your child's died, and you know they talk to you about it. Then you're actually reminding them that they've lived.
Reminding and remembering with respect is the key, according to psychotherapist Nadine Baines from Southport. After enduring miscarriage and termination, she turned pain into purpose, counselling others. She's shocked by what some do say to bereaved parents.
Well, at least you can. I think that's don't start with that sentence, please. At least you can. At least you know you can get pregnant, then that's good. At least you've already got one. Or at least you've still got 2 kids or something like that.
Nadine wants everyone to understand miscarriage is the loss of a child. It is a bereavement.
It's a baby at the end of the day. I don't care really when people think it's because you're only so many weeks. You know, people have got their hopes and dreams here in front of them. You don't tell people you're pregnant and then say, but, you know, could just be a bunch of cells at the moment, so I'm not really getting attached to that. You know, it's not realistic. You get told you're pregnant, you expect a baby at the end, a human being that you've longed for, perhaps.
The void left by a longed-for, much-loved child can break relationships like little else. Experts say parents need to know it's not wrong if they grieve differently to each other.
It's very important that they talk, not just talk, but explain how they're feeling, where the pain's coming from, is it dark, is it sharp, and that way they can get a real understanding of as to how each other's feeling, and it can help them to grieve together. You know, I would say to my couples, you make the baby together, grieve the baby together, because once you start going on different paths, you can have, obviously, problems with your relationship.
It's okay to get angry, it's okay to get frustrated, to go through whatever emotions you are. It's absolutely normal. And this is what we don't do. And when it comes to loss, there can also be these stigmas attached to it. So, for example, parents feeling like that it was their fault, in particular mothers feeling like it's their fault that their child had passed away. There's also cultural views like it was witchcraft or something, black magic had taken place. So again, we need to sort of change these narratives. We need to encourage people to be able to talk about their loss.
Talking openly is crucial to families like Jasmine's, a family trying to help others through a pain like no other. Rob Smith, ITV News.
Yeah, so many lessons for us all in that report. And the tributes tonight go on to Paul O'Grady on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary.
Coming up in the programme, shock and sadness at the death of television star Paul O'Grady. The Queen Consort led tributes to the star, saying he lit up the lives of so many people. We look back at his fearless campaigning, his rise to stardom, and of course, his love of dogs. Also on the programme, calls to expand the number of children eligible for free school meals. A warning that we are a decade behind in our preparations for climate change. And the King in Berlin. Charles makes his first state visit as monarch. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Well, next, the rugby player aiming to change the fortunes of his former club. Mike Ford played for Oldham when they were in rugby league's top flight. Now he's part of the consortium that's taken over the club. First item on the agenda is to move in with the town's football team. He's been talking to Chris Hall.
Oh, Ford's made a break. Ford's clear.
As a player, Mike Ford led Oldham to cup finals. Now he's leading them home. Next season, they'll return to Boundary Park after 15 years away, with a new consortium promising continuity.
I'm Oldham born and bred, and the other 5 guys who've helped purchase the club are all the same. If you look inside the heart, it'll be red and white. And obviously, I played here in 2 different spells. One, second one as a player coach. And although I've gone to rugby union for the last 20 odd years, you know, rugby league's always been in my heart. But the key for us was to be back here at Boundary Park, and I know Oldham Athletic are doing well with their crowds, and hopefully over the next few years we can start building our crowds up again.
And you started here as a footballer before you were into rugby?
Yeah, when I was 15, I signed for Jimmy Frizzell with the manager. I signed as a schoolboy. I wanted to be a footballer. I remember getting booked as a substitute before I even come on because I didn't tell the referee, or someone didn't tell the referee, so that's my claim to fame.
Once a Challenge Cup winner with Wigan Rugby League, Mike became one of the most respected coaches in Union, working with Bath, England and the British Lions, and was followed into that code by his sons, including Sales England star George Ford. Since coaching Oldham to within 80 minutes of Super League 2 decades ago, the club has dipped into the third tier. And while 12 Oldham-born players feature in Super League, Ford wants to stop that drain of talent from leaving the town.
It's not like my ambition is to get to Wembley or we're in Super League in 5 years' time. It's not that for me. It's much bigger. I signed for Wigan. I wanted to actually sign for Oldham. I wanted to play for Oldham. So if any kid in 5, 6, 7 years' time, when they ask who do you want to play for in rugby league or football, we want to play for Oldham because it's our town. We want to play at our park. You know, we want to play in front of our families. That's what I want.
In the short term, any chance of getting one of your boys to switch codes?
No, George is playing for Sale in England, but the other two are coaching. Joe's at Doncaster Knights. Jacob's down in South at Bury St Edmunds. So, you know, they're going to come and help and give guest appearances on their life in professional sport. Yeah, so they'll help out.
His first home game will be on Good Friday night with a derby against Rochdale, a first chance to show the fans that the Roughheads are no longer in for a rough ride. Chris Hall, ITV News, Oldham.
OK, let's return to the death of Paul O'Grady, one of the greatest and most original of our Shapers greats.
We're going to show you the last interview he did for Granada Reports. He was talking to Caroline 6 months ago ahead of his new series of For the Love of Dogs.
He was also looking forward to playing Miss Hannigan in the musical Annie at the Empire Theatre in Liverpool.
Paul O'Grady, we may be here at Battersea Dogs and Cats.
I can't believe you've come all the way down.
I've come here to see you, honestly.
Thank you.
And this little one, what's she called?
This is Annie. We're getting kisses. I think I've bonded with this one. I've already got 5. I'd take you home if I could, but honestly, you've already got a homecoming. What do we say? We love you, Miss Hannigan. Yeah, she's a sweetheart, this one.
Well, talking of that...
The thing with Annie is, it's such a good show. And Hannigan is a joy to be... Because you're either hungover or drunk.
She's very similar to Lily Savage.
I know she is.
But I know Lily's retired now, hasn't she? Yeah.
I'd say she's a distant relative of Lily's. Definitely. Lily wouldn't go into childcare. That wasn't somewhere. She's working in Amsterdam in the hospitality industry now.
But you are coming home though next June.
Yeah.
So Liverpool's going to go mad, aren't they?
And the Empire's a lovely stage, and it's a smashing theatre to work in. And of course, all my lot up there, they'll all be in to see it.
You're filming, obviously, the new series of For the Love of Dogs.
Yeah. This is the 11th year, yeah. We've done 11 series.
Because every time I see you, it's when you've won an NTA for The Love of Dogs.
For the Love of Dogs.
So are you still loving The Love of Dogs?
Well, it's a lovely job. You know, look, I come in, right, I get to meet... I mean, it's sad as well because I get to see a lot of dogs that have been abused. There's a lot of greyhounds in at the moment. They assume they need loads of exercise and they're really bony. They're not. If you're a couch potato, get a greyhound because they're perfect for you. I've always been skinny. I don't know, always have. I could eat my own body weight, not put an ounce on.
Really?
I could eat 16 meals a day, not an ounce. Miss a meal, I lose a stone. I've never said, I have to go on the diet. I've never said that. I've always been animal mad ever since I was a kid. I had hamsters, mice, guinea pigs, rabbits, goldfish, a ferret. You name it, I had the lot.
Well, thank you for chatting to us.
And listen, thanks for coming down. You know, I grew up with Granada Reports. Bob Greaves.
Yes.
And he came to interview me in Blackpool when I was doing the summer season. I couldn't believe it. If Barbara Streisand had walked in, I'd have gone hello. Yeah. But when I saw, I thought, Bob Greaves. It was like when I met Ken Barlow.
Lovely chatting to you, Paul. Thank you very much.
And listen, thanks very much for coming down. You're going to say bye-bye now? Little dogs, everywhere I turn, I can see them.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, you're welcome.
And our thanks to Paul for all those hilarious interviews for Granada Reports and all the laughs along the way. So many wonderful memories. We will miss you.
So it's good night from us and goodbye to Paul O'Grady, the man who made drag mainstream and whose wicked humour and love of dogs won the hearts of millions. A very good night.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. Very good evening to you. The rest of this week, low pressure will dominate our weather, and that means spells of rain will never be too far away. Some warm, sunny spells with temperatures doing quite well for the time being, but it could be rather windy at times over the next few days. And into this weekend, in fact, as we go into April, something slightly colder returning weather-wise. With low pressure in charge and a system of fronts moving their way in from the Atlantic, the next few days will be changeable, to say the least, with some showery rain and windy conditions at times. And as I mentioned before, by the weekend, some colder air moving in once more. Back to this evening, a wet few hours to come, but then before midnight, drier, quieter, winds falling light, some mistiness and low cloud. And then through the very early part of tomorrow morning, some showery rain moving up from the Midlands, certainly across parts of the region before dawn. A damp end to the night. It's misty and murky, and we're free from frost. 8 or 9 Celsius, the overnight low. On to tomorrow, quite a cloudy, damp start to the day. The sun will be rising tomorrow morning at 6:50, setting at 7:42 tomorrow evening. There could be some hill fog on your way into work tomorrow and rather drizzly, wet conditions, but we will see sunshine getting out. Through tomorrow morning, skies will brighten, winds pick up a little bit during the afternoon, and with the bright and sunny conditions, also a few showers feeding in across the northwest as we go through the day. Into the afternoon, a few good drier slots though, 14, maybe 15 Celsius, doing well for the time of year. But it will turn slightly windier, especially for exposed western coasts later on in the day. After that, the rest of the week looks unsettled. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.